It is Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, and it's AM 1160 WCCS, 8:46 in the morning. And our interview with Tim Barr here on News Talk 1160 WCCS, also on Periscope under Hometown News Live, if we can get that up and running this morning. Meanwhile, let's get started with Tim Barr. I want to spend as much time as we can with them. Tim, we got the notice yesterday from you that more than 9,500 notices have been sent out in response to property tax evaluations and appeals and all of those discussions. They fall into three categories. If you could, give us an overview of what that's all about.
Sure, and thanks for having me on today to answer more questions, and I always welcome that opportunity. About 9,500 notices went in the mail yesterday. Most of those were results of informal reviews. That's the folks that came out to the mall, told us things about the property that were just related to physical description. About 53% of those resulted in reductions in values, so that won't make everybody happy. It'll correct issues that we had identified through that informal review process, and some of those will continue on to formal appeals. So far, there's about 1,100 formal decisions that were mailed, and the boards there have full independence. They can make decisions as to whatever the property owner presents. They'll weigh that evidence, whether it's appraisal evidence or whether it's things that make the property unique, that are problems, that make it not like the ones that have sold in the area. At 85% of those actually went down. So much more dramatic effect there for the formal decision orders. The third category was the revised notices. Those are a bit of a unique category. Usually we have some revised notices due to maintenance and new construction, but in this case, the commissioners had asked us to go reevaluate certain portions and areas of the county. So we did that. We're continuing to do that as we learn new things. But 3,200 revised notices were also sent. One of the categories that I want to draw attention to in the revised notice, though, if you own more than one parcel and they touch each other, the assessment office has a policy where they can be taxed together. And a lot of folks have taken advantage of that. If you're never going to sell it off separately, then having those combined into one tax parcel will reduce the taxes on that.
One of the questions that we got from listeners actually has to do with that, and it says, just to put it the way they did, you've said that Indiana County has about 48,000 parcels. They're wondering how many landowners among those 48,000 parcels. In other words, many people own multiple pieces of property. How many landowners are we talking about?
We don't actually know because the names are oftentimes listed slightly differently on the assessment records. So to be honest, we don't have a definitive count for that.
Okay. All right. One of the other questions, this person says, I want to see the specific data of all the people's taxes who stayed the same, went down in rows. He wants specific numbers. Is there a resource where they can find that information?
Well, here's the challenge with that. That doesn't take place until the end. We know that it's revenue neutral once the millages are equalized. But until this formal appeal process is completed, I don't know who is going to end up with a reduction, an increase, or stay the same. In other words, I don't know which third they're going to end up with. Those original notices are based upon the values as of July, but the estimates on the bottom of the notices are based upon millages that will take effect at certification.
Okay. All right. So
we don't really know that information yet.
Okay. So the question had to do with property owners' value going down, people staying the same. They wanted specific numbers of how many. Another one wants to know, well, through this formal process, and this is actually a combination of two questions, of three questions, actually. Through this process, we hear about people whose values go down, and therefore their tax is going to change and benefit them more. And the question was, who pays for that? If they're counting on this amount of dollars based upon this evaluation, and one of those evaluations goes down, where's the difference? How does that difference made up?
And this is a key point of confusion. When we say revenue neutral, it means that the taxing bodies have to collect or levy the same exact amount of money that they did the preceding year. Okay. That takes place when the millages are equalized. Those estimates on the bottom of the notice include, those are my estimates, they include the anticipated adjustments from the informal reviews and formal appeals. So if we had done equalized millages as of July and put that estimate on the bottom of the notice, then we would have seen a third then, but it would have had to been higher for everybody because of appeals in clean and green. That wouldn't be fair. That's taking something away that you give somebody representation of. We don't want to do that. So what we do instead is we estimate where we think it's going to land in the end. Those formal appeals, informal reviews, any of these reductions that are happening between now and certification, I have projected and baked that into those original estimates. So I don't need to take money away from other places. I don't need higher millage rates or higher estimates to cover that. If there's a lot more clean and green enrollment than we expected, or a lot more appeal reductions than we expected, then it might move that number a couple of percentage points. But at this point, I don't see that happening.
Tim Barr is with us this morning, and I realize I'm trying to squeeze in a whole bunch into a limited amount of time, and I apologize for that. And again, we are up on Periscope if you'd like to watch Tim. We'll try to get it online at Facebook later. Here's a question that somebody asks for us. It says, in your last visit to Indiana in the morning, you related the story of a homeowner whose leaking roof caused extensive damage to the home's interior, and at his appeal, he was able to get a substantial reduction. That seemed like the homeowner's personal neglect worked to his advantage. Why should he be rewarded for that? And on the other side, another question sort of went the other way. It says, seems like the system is set up that people who wish to improve the appearance of their homes have no incentive to do so. They're penalized for making their homes nice. Speak to that whole issue of the overall condition of the home and when you find situations such as that you described.
Sure. And this goes back to potentially some tax reform issues. The Pennsylvania law defines that taxes are based upon value, what properties would sell for. Now, one that's got a little better upkeep, a nicer lawn, those kind of things, that's not affecting the value. But if there is a major improvement, you put new vinyl siding on the house, a new brick, you replace all the windows, you do major renovations, or you fail to do renovations or upkeep, does that affect the value of the home? Well, clearly, at some stage it does, and therefore, by extension, it must be represented in the taxes under current Pennsylvania law.
Okay, and so that becomes not really your issue. Your issue is based upon the market value of the home. If the market value is more, then you're going to have a higher evaluation.
Two identical homes built the exact same time, with the exact same quality of materials, workmanship, and so forth. But one of them is in lower condition than the other one. Then which one's going to sell for more? The one that's in better condition, and that does mean that person is, to use the word of the questioner, penalized for having a more valuable home because our taxes are based on the value of our homes.
Okay. Here's another question from another of our listeners. In the reassessment, why did EST change the grades and conditions on dwellings to higher levels than listed on the original Indiana County property cards, especially older homes that have not had any obvious changes in construction in years? Now, I can't really address exactly what they're talking about. You interpret that question and let me know.
Well, there is a grade. It's part of the descriptive information, but the old cost-based grade that was done in 1968 it's not the same scale or schedule that the grading system that was used for modern appraisals. So it's apples and oranges. They're not supposed to match. They're not even the same concept exactly. There are differences between cost value and market-based values. In the end, if you have a B grade in an area that's A grade homes, that's a bad thing. If you're a B grade home in an area of C grade homes, that's a good thing. That's the purpose of the grade. And it's more about comparing one home against similar homes in the area to see how that's going to affect the value of the property.
Okay. Additional information they had in their question. You had access to all the pictures of the dwellings and the property cards as both were uploaded online, but still bumped up those factors to higher levels. As an appraiser, is that a common practice?
Well, an appraiser must look at everything from scratch. You must take and evaluate the physical description of the property. We did get some information from the county's old property record cards. There weren't a lot of photographs there, but the property record cards were scanned, and that's a good resource. But this county hadn't been visited, every property hadn't been visited since 1968. So that's why it was necessary to gather new and more current information.
Tim Barr is with us, and he's been kind enough to try to answer some of the questions of our listeners this morning. This one just came in. Mr. Barr, what is being done to correct the information on properties that went down in value? Example, property taxes went down because the house was not assessed on a correct parcel.
Anytime a property is discovered that a building is on the wrong property or whatever, if that happens at an informal or a formal appeal, they take down notes and then they work with the assessment office to get those those map lines changed if necessary, get the buildings moved, and those properties are some of the kind of things we're seeing in those 3,200 revised notices that just went out.
Okay. The other question I have to do from memory because my computer just froze up. Oh, here it comes. Here it comes. Are the taxpayers... Oh, gosh, it just went away for a second. I'll have to find it again here. Are the... I love our email
While
system.
you bring that up, the revised notices, those few 3,200 that went out, those folks, because they may have gone down, they may have gone up, also get another 40-day opportunity to file a formal appeal. Most of them are reductions, and many of them have probably already filed a formal appeal form. They won't need to file again if they'd already filed previously.
Okay, here's that other question. Are the taxpayers paying for the mistakes made in EST's data? And an accompanying question, does your company make extra money if there are more formal or informal hearings than stated in the contract?
No, it costs us money because it costs us time. Our fee is fixed. The price of the project is fixed. The extra time that this project has required is just an extra cost for us. There's no incentive to the county because it's revenue neutral. There's no incentive certainly for the vendor because it's a lot more work to deal with additional appeals. The first part of that question, remind me here.
Are the taxpayers paying for mistakes made in EST's data?
Well, the taxpayers are having to go through this process, but that is not... That is just part of mass appraisal, and that may frustrate everybody, and I appreciate that. But when you send out data collectors to list the basic description and you go through a batch mass process to assess 49,000 properties, you must have taxpayer involvement to deal with the specifics and the unusual.
Couple of moments left with Tim Barr this morning. You'll be at the county commissioners meeting today, I assume. The commissioners will be meeting at the Kowalczyk complex once more this morning. What do you anticipate to be happening there? Are there specific things laid out on the agenda in which you'll be involved?
I'm not really on the agenda. I've made a habit of at each of these commissioners' meetings of making myself available to those that want answers to questions and to try to field some questions after the meetings. And I plan to continue to do that. We did get a count for the number of appeals. It appears that there's about 10,000 appeals total. We went through and the assessment office counted the stacks in more detail. They're not all scheduled at this point, of course, but those will continue to be scheduled so everyone has their opportunity for a formal appeal.
In consideration of that, do you anticipate any problems with getting everything in within the allotted time that was originally laid out for the whole appeal process and the conclusion of the whole assessment process as it is?
When it's been 47 years since the last reassessment, and when you have 20% appeals instead of 17% appeals, which is more typical, it's going to take more time. And I've seen that happen in other counties where they've had to go past the October 31st deadline. There's no penalty for doing that. In fact, the courts have said in the past it's more important to make sure everybody gets their opportunity to present their case than it is that you meet the October 31st deadline.
Yeah, there was one other question that somebody had having to do with the actual appeal process and the appeal board and their appearance. They didn't feel that they were given enough time to explain their thing, but that's not really your position. That's the county's. That's all from the county's.
Well,
standpoint.
it is part of the logistics that we work together as a team to set up. And the truth is, in this county, that time has been extended to 20 minutes total for each hearing instead of the more typical 15 minutes because the commissioners did want to make sure people had extra time. If folks focus on the information that they want to present and present that in a concise manner, then the boards will have plenty of time to hear that evidence and to make an adjustments appropriately. And if the property owner has more than one parcel, that time is also extended.
Okay. Well, speaking of extended time, I went past mine with you. Thanks so much for coming in today. Tim Barr from Evaluator Services. Let's